you first of all define who you are and what you care about most, and you bring your word, thought, and action into alignment to those values, and you don't betray them.
Any successful relationship starts with finding your center, the truth at the core of who you are. Only then can you develop the ability to truly connect with someone else. Concentric is about aligning with people who share a common center. This show gives you the tools and the skills to do just that through practical training, real-life stories and examples, and in-depth interviews with people who have taken this journey and come out the other side better for it. Welcome to Concentric. We're glad you're here.
Welcome to episode 18 of Concentric. Today we've got a quick wins kind of episode for you. You know, on this show, Gary and I very often, dig deep on these different subjects and, certainly give you tactics and strategies and ideas and reasons why around a lot of these topics. And today we wanted to dig in with really a quick win, something you can grab onto and use today and really improve your life. And so what we dig into today is around alignment, kind of getting back into alignment with, your significant other, or heck, maybe even a friendship that you have with somebody, or, a parent-child relationship. A lot of times, we start heading in different directions a little bit. We each see our world and through different frames and filters. And so Gary walks us through some really powerful tools here so that we can get back into alignment quickly. First with ourselves and how we're framing everything, but then, working with our significant other or that friend and getting back into alignment with them and back on the same page and really just opening up that communication. All right, let's jump in. Welcome to Concentric, everyone. Gary, how are you, sir?
I'm good, my friend. How are you?
Doing wonderful. I'm excited to do a few of these quick episodes for folks. We dive deep into a lot of topics, and not only is that fun for you and I, but it's also, I think, really useful for folks, whether they're, trying to tackle something in a personal relationship or even, build a better culture at work, right? A lot of these things really flow into both areas. And I wanted to get your take today on really some basic core steps, something that couples could take and just apply today, basically, like, man, there's just this friction here, whether that's been growing over time or they're starting to see it come up. And what are some of those basics that we don't get handed this manual when we're married or we go into a relationship with someone. But so when this friction comes up, both sides are trying to interpret what's going on separately in their own way. And for those interested in, man, I want to get a handle on this. I don't want to keep butting heads on this. What are some of those basics that couples can do?
Well, one of the first things is when I'm doing couples work is I want to be able to find out if there's a huge values conflict between the two partners. Because where relationships generally fall apart is when their values, the individual values of each person, is quite opposite from the other. So the very first thing is to I'm going to give the listening audience just a really quick tip on how to do this. It's best to get it facilitated, but because we're not in that space to do that, we'll be able to give a quick way of being able to do this as a group. This is what I oftentimes do in corporations and in larger seminars.
Yeah. And real quick too, if for folks who want to go deeper on this specific aspect of defining your own values and stuff like that, we did a 3-parter earlier in this series. You can go back and see and get really in depth with this.
Yeah. And it does go quite in depth. Plus, it's in the Creating Incredible Relationship, seminar that we have online. So it's a big subject, but it's a super important one. So values are really important beliefs that sort of rise up the hierarchy of importance through time. And values will define for you what you care about the most. So you can go to the internet and Google, examples of different values, and you'll get lists that are about maybe 50 to 100 values. And what you do then is you go through those values, and each individual does this in the relationship. So one person will do like their 100 values, and then they go through it and they mark off their 20 top values. And then the other individuals, part of the relationship, they mark off their 20 top values. Once you have two people with their 20 top values, then you sit down individually, not together. You sit down and you eliminate 10 of those 20 values. So you go through the list and go, okay, well, if I had that value, then that is not as important as this value over here. So you eliminate that until you come up with then 10 top values. So once you distill it down to 10 top values, you do one more process of distilling and eliminating. Then you look at your top 10 values and you eliminate 5. And then you have your top 5 values. Now you need to be asking yourself questions like, if I have this, but none of this value, or if I have this value, but none of this value, which one would be more important to me? And that begins to give you a contrast of which value is really going to be the one that is a member of your top 5 values.
I hope you're enjoying this episode. If you want to take a deep dive into the concepts Gary is talking about here and so much more, I've got something for you. From time to time on this show, you may hear us talk about Gary's course, Creating Incredible Relationships. This course is the culmination of Gary's 35 years worth of seminars, one-on-one training, and transforming the lives of over 11,000 people on 4 different continents. To learn how to build alignment and heck, just get along with others sometimes, we all require skills that are not commonly known and are not out there in the relationship development space. We need help. That's why Gary put this course together. The content in it is powerful and comprehensive. But just like we've done with this show, it's put together in a way that's easily consumable and quickly implemented. To gain the ability to take every relationship you have or want to have to the next level, go to garyscourse.com and see how to get started. Now, back to the show.
Once you have your top 5 values, you sit down with your partner and go, okay, let's look at our top 5 values. Where are we aligned? Where do we have similar values? Where do we have opposite values? And generally, relationships that work extraordinarily well have a large percentage of those top 5 values aligned. Either you have the same type of values or you have complementary values. So it becomes something that is, again, we mentioned in another episode that curiosity is really, super important when we're doing this sort of deep dive into ourselves, and especially when we're trying to understand a partner better. So when we look at, once we have those top 5 values, I suggest to the couple that they go through those, then they'll have 10 values. My top 5, their top 5. Figure out which ones are aligned and which ones are not. And then start having a conversation about the values that constitute both of yours, and then come up with 5 top values that's going to guide the relationship. What are the top values that then guide the relationship? And I always tell people, if there's a value that's missing out of the top 5, go back and add it. Because think about it this way, people say generally, love and financial well-being and spirituality and children and integrity. They may say all of that. But what if you don't have neither one of them? What if they don't have the value of determination? Now, the truth of it is that determination is one of the most important values that you could ever have, because that makes everything, that's the grease in the gears of a relationship. Because if you don't have determination to stick with it, have your breakthroughs, do the conversations, understand each other, and be determined to stick with the difficult periods of the relationship, you won't make it.
Yeah, some form of that, of persistence, determination and stuff. And even if, individually your personalities, maybe you don't, like you said, it's not in there on either one of them in terms of, in life. They're not that go after it kind of folks. If you don't have that, at least towards the relationship and intentionality just there, we're not asking you to be the most determined person in the world, but if you don't have it directed right there at your relationship, your family, then something's gonna give.
What the most beautiful thing is that once the couple has defined what the relationship values are, those relationship values act as an anchor to when the winds of circumstances blow the sails of the relationship off course towards the rocks. They have an anchor that anchors the relationship. No, like, we stand for this. This is what we stand for. And if we go against our values or we betray our values, we really nosedive our self-esteem. And we nosedive the sanctity of the relationship. So it becomes this place where you have to define what it is and why it is you're with this particular person. Because out of all the trillions of genealogical combinations you could be hanging out with, you're hanging out with this person. And so that's a big deal, in my opinion. I don't think that that's happenstance. I think that that's purpose. So to be able to get that set of values defined acts as a lightning rod and a maypole that the whole relationship circles around. The next is, once you have your top 5 values, your relationship values, top 5, then write out a mission statement and have those values be part of the mission statement. This is what we stand for. We're like this unit. I mean, there's me, there's you, and then the thing in the middle is the combination of the two people. So it becomes a third entity. So this is what the relationship energy stands for. And when you have that defined, it does something, because a lot of times couples feel really disconnected from one another. This is something to create and sustain that particular connection.
Yeah, and it gives you a filter, the personal mission, the personal values, to actually define those, because so many of us, we don't really sit down like this and go through this kind of process. And then the relationship list of values and mission statement, it allows you to hold something up and point to when anything comes up and you're trying to make that hard decision. Okay, are we going to take this job, over here and move us out of state, or is that, does that support our mission, our family mission statement, our relationship mission statement, or does it go against it? And so it just gives you that, oh, awesome. Okay, so then it's not just this list of pros and cons that is the most that a lot of people do, and they actually, you start steering your life in a very purposeful direction.
Well, there's actually one thing I'd like to mention before we, in this episode, that I think is really important because so many people suffer from it. It's depression. That when we're not aligned to our top 5 core unconscious values, we actually feel depressed. And because we don't know what those top 5 values are, we don't know if our daily behaviors are betraying those top 5 values, then we enter into these states of like negative self-talk, self-deprecation, not liking what we see in the morning, because we can't lie to ourselves. We know when we're not doing, or when we're betraying that. We may not know what the values are, but we feel a drop in our energy. And when that happens, what actually begins to occur is, we only allow the level of success to come to us that we feel worthy of receiving. So if we're breaking our top 5 values and we're doing it in our daily behaviors, but because we're unaware of what they are, we just keep doing it, we get low-level states of depression that continues to compound. And when this happens in a relationship, what happens often is that the partners do this. If you were like this, I would feel this way. If you did this, I would be happy. And before you know it, you have all this transference and drama triangle, and it's like you're the villain, I'm the victim. All that starts to occur. And the easy way out of it is that you, first of all, define who you are and what you care about most. And you bring your word, thought, and action into alignment to those values, and you don't betray them. When you do that, your self-esteem rises. And that then gives you the capacity to feel like you're worth investing in, to feel like you're worth the work to make a relationship work. And then everything starts to improve. So if you're waiting for your partner to change and make you happy, you just might as well just give up that ghost. Because first of all, even if it did happen, that your partner sacrificed all this stuff that was personally valuable to them and bent to your will and your needs, you would eventually destroy them, because they would be undoubtedly lying to themselves, negating their own truth, growing a slow steaming pot of resentment that would bleed over into your sex life. Because if you're resenting someone, you don't want to touch them, and you don't want to be touched by them because you've lost respect for them. So all this starts to compound by the simple act of not knowing what your values are and then not bringing your behavior into alignment with it. So values are so important. So do that exercise, and and then shoot us off a little note, LinkedIn, Facebook, something, and we will. I'm just curious to see how people do with that, because it makes such a huge difference.
Yeah, absolutely. I encourage everyone to kind of, if you're not in a relationship, do your own personal values, right? Get that in, be ready for when that relationship is there. And if you are, even if things are fine, right? Even if you're not in like major crisis mode right now, all the better, to take your relationship to the next level. So I encourage you all to jump in and do this. Thank you, Gary. That's awesome, helpful instruction there.
Sweet. Okay. We'll see you next time, buddy.
See ya.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of Concentric. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd certainly like a great review from you on your favorite podcasting platform. But more than that, what really makes a difference to a show like ours is a recommendation to someone who would love this show like you do. Word of mouth referrals to your network and your podcast devouring friends is incredibly helpful to the growth of this show. For episode links and info, go to concentricshow.com. Thank you so much, and remember to keep building alignment to build a better life.